The quiet exit of an empath is often misunderstood, perceived as coldness, yet Carl Jung's profound insights reveal it to be the most devastating form of truth-telling, a silent revolution that shatters the illusions of those who have taken kindness for granted. This isn't about screaming or dramatic confrontations. It's a far more potent force, complete, resolute withdrawal. When a soul that has poured boundless energy into others simply recedes into silence, it compels those left behind to face a stark, uncomfortable reality they've diligently avoided. They realize, with a chilling clarity, that the connection wasn't built on love, but on utilization. Imagine years spent as the unwavering emotional pillar, the tireless listener, the gentle comforter who asks for nothing in return. You've absorbed the storms of anger, the depths of pain, the chaotic dysfunction of others, until your own spirit feels like a distant echo. You've been the quiet harbor, the soft landing, the invisible glue holding fractured lives together. But then, a profound, internal shift occurs, not born of rage, but of a quiet, unshakable certainty. You cease to offer explanations. You stop apologizing for your own inherent needs, and most powerfully, you become utterly unavailable for their emotional crises. Jung termed this transformative process the withdrawal of projections, understanding that for those accustomed to endless giving, it feels like an unexpected, bewildering psychological siege. Jung illuminated a crucial truth about what we now call empaths, describing them as individuals endowed with an innate sensitiveness, a heightened capacity for psychological perception. This gift, while beautiful, often makes them unconscious repositories for the unresolved emotional material of others. Jung famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." For the highly sensitive, this unconscious direction often stems from external emotional currents, rather than their own inner compass. They absorb others' anxieties and pains as their personal responsibility to mend, instead of cultivating a conscious awareness of their own psychological landscape. It's like a sponge in a stormy sea, endlessly soaking up the turmoil without ever wringing itself out. Jung frequently observed this pattern, sensitive souls morphing into what we might call psychological containers, unconsciously carrying the emotional baggage that others refuse to acknowledge. They develop what he called a porous ego boundary, making them exquisitely attuned to others' feelings, yet tragically ill-equipped to distinguish between their own emotions and those they've absorbed. This creates the helper's dilemma. The more you shield others from their inner work, the more dependent they become on your emotional labor. You cease to be seen as a unique individual and become a mere function, a service provider for their psychological comfort. These relationships, Jung discovered, often operate on an unconscious contract of codependence. The sensitive individual silently agrees to shoulder the emotional burden, while others implicitly agree to offer conditional acceptance in return. Neither party is consciously aware of this unspoken pact, which is precisely why its power is so insidious and pervasive. Jung wisely noted, "We cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses." Yet, in these dynamics, only one party typically undergoes profound transformation: the sensitive soul. They adapt, accommodate, and absorb, while others remain psychologically stagnant, suspended in their patterns. This is why Jung passionately advocated for true individuation, the courageous journey of becoming your authentic self, which demands the courage to be displeasing. For empaths, this courage feels like an act of betrayal, as their very identity has been meticulously woven around being helpful, understanding, and perpetually available. It's akin to a chrysalis shedding its familiar form, a painful but necessary metamorphosis. Jung identified distinct psychological stages in this journey of reclaiming autonomy, what we might call the 5 stages of empathic individuation. Understanding these stages reveals the devastating efficacy of the quiet exit. The first is often a moment of psychological clarity. It rarely arrives with thunder, but rather with a gentle, yet undeniable flicker of insight. A seemingly minor incident suddenly illuminates the entire dynamic, revealing that your vibrant presence has been reduced to a utilitarian function, not cherished as a unique person. Jung wrote, "The world will ask you who you are, and if you don't know, the world will tell you." This awakening, for sensitive souls, is often agonizing, exposing the vast expanse of self sacrificed on the altar of others' comfort. You begin to perceive that your innate kindness has been misinterpreted as weakness, your deep empathy as endless availability, your compassionate silence as tacit consent. Most shocking of all, you realize many in your life don't truly know who you are beneath your role as their emotional support system. Jung recognized this as the initial, crucial step toward psychological independence. The moment you cease making excuses for others' behaviors and begin to question why you've accepted so little in return for giving so much, it's the moment you finally see the truth, often with a gasp of recognition. This phase frequently involves shadow integration, accepting your unintentional participation in your own exploitation by neglecting healthy boundaries. This isn't self-blame, but a powerful self-awareness that unlocks the door to change. Once recognition blooms, sensitive individuals experience a great reorientation. Their precious energy, once a boundless river flowing outward, begins a conscious redirection inward. This is not depression or a retreat into darkness. It's a deliberate reclamation of psychological resources. You stop automatically agreeing to every request. You pause, taking a breath before absorbing others' emotional states. Most importantly, you begin to pose questions to yourself that you've never dared to utter. What do I truly desire? What are my needs? Who am I when I'm not consumed with caring for everyone else? Jung declared, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." For highly sensitive people, this inward journey can feel profoundly selfish, as they've been conditioned to believe their worth is intrinsically linked to their utility to others. During this stage, you encounter the discomfort of authenticity. Being genuinely yourself feels alien when you've spent a lifetime being a chameleon, adapting to others' needs. You begin to erect small, firm boundaries, declining minor requests, taking sacred time for yourself without offering explanations. What Jung understood so profoundly is that every boundary you set is not merely personal, it's also a therapeutic act for others. By refusing to enable their emotional avoidance, you gently, yet firmly, compel them to develop their own coping mechanisms. This is where Jung's wisdom becomes paramount in grasping the psychological might of the quiet exit. He observed that when sensitive individuals cease overfunctioning in relationships, it creates a vacuum effect. The vast space they once filled with their tireless emotional labor suddenly becomes glaringly, undeniably empty. You stop initiating conversations. You no longer rush to mediate conflicts. You become unavailable for the daily emotional maintenance you once provided. Automatically, effortlessly, most profoundly, you cease explaining your actions or seeking external validation for your choices. Jung called this the withdrawal of participation mystique, a conscious disentanglement from unconsciously merging with others' psychological states. Instead of absorbing their emotions, you begin to observe them. Instead of fixing their problems, you become a silent witness to their choices. The psychological impact on others is immediate, stark, and deeply unsettling. They suddenly grasp the immense extent of their dependence on your emotional regulation, your conflict avoidance, your endless accommodation. What they perceived as natural, as simply the way things are, was in fact sustained by your invisible, tireless labor. If you've ever experienced this profound silence, you know that your quietude speaks volumes beyond any words you ever uttered. Jung understood this silence isn't a punitive act. It's an act of profound self-protection. You aren't seeking to harm others. You are seeking to stop harming yourself. Yet, to those accustomed to your boundless availability, your sudden absence feels like an abandonment, precisely because they've never learned to tend to their own emotional landscape. Jung observed that when sensitive individuals withdraw their emotional support, it ushers others into psychological accountability. They are forced to confront the uncomfortable truth that their relationship was founded on exploitation, not genuine connection. This stage vividly reveals the true brutality of the quiet exit. Stripped of your emotional cushioning, others are left to face the full, unmitigated impact of their own behavior. They experience the stark consequences of taking without giving, of demanding without appreciating, of using without valuing. Some will lash out with fierce anger, accusing you of being cold, selfish, or drastically changed. Jung would identify this anger as a projection of their own shadow they are witnessing in you, the very selfishness they refuse to acknowledge within themselves. Others might attempt hoovering, suddenly showering you with attention, empty promises of change, or expressions of appreciation they never once offered. Jung cautioned against this manipulation. Where love reigns, there is no will to power, and where the will to power is paramount, love is lacking. This sudden influx of attention is about regaining control, not expressing authentic appreciation. The most psychologically mature response, according to Jung, is when others embrace responsibility for their actions and embark on their own emotional work. But this is a rare occurrence, for it demands confronting uncomfortable truths about oneself. Jung wrote, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people." Your quiet exit, in its pure authenticity, irritates them because it mirrors their own capacity for withdrawal and self-protection qualities they've projected onto you as negative, while simultaneously relying on your opposite qualities. The ultimate stage Jung identified is the birth of psychological sovereignty. You have not merely withdrawn from unhealthy dynamics. You have begun to forge a life rooted in your authentic self, rather than shaped by external expectations. You cultivate conscious empathy, the profound ability to feel with others without ever losing yourself in their experience. You learn to extend compassion without becoming compulsively helpful. You can remain sensitive without becoming a mere receptacle for others' unconscious material. Crucially, you learn to trust your own inner psychological compass. Jung wrote, "Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself." You no longer require external validation to discern what is true, what is healthy, or what genuinely serves your highest good. This hard-won sovereignty is precisely what makes the quiet exit so powerfully effective. You are not waging war against others. You are fighting for the very essence of yourself. You are not seeking to punish them. You are striving to preserve your own psychological integrity. While this journey to peace over people-pleasing is liberating, Jung also cautioned about the potential loneliness that can accompany this stage. When you cease to attract those who seek to be fixed, you might experience a temporary isolation until you learn to draw in souls who value authenticity over mere utility. Jung understood that the empath's quiet exit creates a profound mirror effect. Your absence compels others to truly see themselves, often for the very first time. Without your emotional buffering, they confront the full, unvarnished weight of their own psychological patterns. Some will never comprehend what transpired. They will construct elaborate narratives about how you changed or became selfish, because accepting responsibility for their role in the dynamic is simply too psychologically threatening. Others might experience what Jung termed a neurotic breakdown, the collapse of their old coping mechanisms, forcing them to develop healthier ones. This, though rarely feeling like it in the moment, can be a transformative gift. A rare few will embrace this experience, as Jung intended, as a catalyst for their own individuation. They will recognize that their dependence on your emotional labor was actively hindering their own psychological growth. Jung observed that these profound mirror moments are often the true catalysts for genuine transformation. When someone realizes they have been psychologically parasitic, it can ignite a powerful motivation for real change, not to win you back, but to become a whole, integrated person themselves. Jung uncovered something truly profound about why the quiet exit is so psychologically devastating. It's not merely the loss of emotional support, it's the unavoidable confrontation with what he called the unlived life. When you cease enabling others' emotional avoidance, they are forced to finally face all the feelings, conflicts, and growth they have so skillfully sidestepped. Your benevolent presence wasn't just comforting, it was inadvertently preventing their psychological development. Jung beautifully stated, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." Your quiet exit compels others to finally develop their own roots, instead of perpetually depending on yours. This is why the revenge feels so brutal. It's not what you are actively doing to them, but what you are no longer preventing them from experiencing. You have removed the anesthesia, and now they must feel everything they have so assiduously avoided. Jung's vision of psychological health embraced what we might call the sovereign sensitive, an individual who maintains their innate capacity for deep feeling without ever losing themselves in the experiences of others. You learn to love without self-loss, to help without self-depletion, to care without shouldering others' burdens. You become what Jung termed a conscious individual, someone who deliberately chooses their responses, rather than reacting from unconscious patterns. The quiet exit is not about becoming hardened or closed off, it is about becoming profoundly conscious. Jung believed that consciousness was humanity's greatest achievement, the ability to choose your responses from your authentic self, rather than from unconscious programming. Your sensitivity, when protected by healthy boundaries and guided by conscious choice, transforms from a vulnerability into an extraordinary superpower. Jung held that highly sensitive individuals serve an evolutionary function in human consciousness, what we might call the empathic awakening. When sensitive people cease enabling unconscious behavior and begin to model conscious living, a ripple effect begins. Every time you choose authenticity over seeking approval, you implicitly grant others permission to do the same. Every boundary you courageously set shows others that self-respect is not only possible but essential. Every time you refuse to carry someone else's emotional burden, you force them to develop their own emotional muscles. Jung wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe. Your quiet exit is this very struggle, the valiant assertion of individual consciousness over collective unconsciousness." So here is what Jung would want you to understand, deeply and irrevocably. Your sensitivity is not a weakness. It is your greatest strength when properly directed and honored. The quiet exit is not about punishing others. It is about fiercely protecting yourself long enough to blossom into who you are truly meant to be. The people who genuinely deserve a place in your life will respect your boundaries, cherish your depth, and meet you with reciprocal authenticity. Those who do not will reveal their true colors through their response to your newfound sovereignty. Jung's individuation process is rarely comfortable, but it is profoundly necessary. You cannot become whole while fragments of yourself are scattered among people who do not value the gifts you have so freely given. The empath's quiet exit is the most brutal form of revenge, because it is not revenge at all. It is a profound revelation. When someone who gave everything simply recedes into silence, it compels others to confront the undeniable truth. Jung spent his life illuminating, genuine relationship demands mutual consciousness, not unconscious exploitation. Your withdrawal isn't cruelty, it is clarifying truth. Your silence isn't punishment, it is sacred protection. Your boundaries are not walls. They are the bedrock upon which authentic connection can finally be built. Jung wrote, "The first half of life is devoted to forming a healthy ego, The second half is going inward and letting go of it. Your quiet exit clears the path for these deeply authentic connections to emerge, not just for you, but for a world yearning for conscious living. Your sensitivity was never meant to be a subservience to unconscious people. It was meant to be a magnificent bridge to conscious living for yourself first, and then for others ready to bravely cross it.